Ionescu. She got it. And Stewart doing it all.
That is what makes her special.
Hey Libs fans, and welcome back to Liberty FM. We're back for a fourth season and things are a little different around here. We weren't able to cover the playoffs last year because we welcomed a beautiful baby boy.
Yes, and I guess in a way the Liberty did us a favor last year by putting an early end to their season, because I don't think we would have been able to
No.
cover the playoff, and I think there was a sign of relief in a way that this season ended because we were plagued by injuries. Stewie got injured, Saab got injured, JJ got injured, Phoebish, I mean.
Phoebish was tired.
Phoebish was tired. Let's just say it. Broken rib to finish the season.
Yeah, she did a lot.
And I think that we kind of knew the writing was on the wall that when you have so many injuries, and it was kind of like an end of a cycle with Sandy Brandello, that it was gonna be hard to have the back-to-back season. And I didn't think the Las Vegas Aces were gonna win this title, but kudos to them in the way they finished the second part of the season. But I think I was kind of relieved that the season ended. And I think there was a bit of a shocker in the press conference after that loss against the Phoenix Mercury when New York Post reporter asked Stewie and Saab about Sandy Brandello's position for the following season. I think everybody was kind of in shock, but obviously they had a good relationship with Sandy and they were gonna defend her and not gonna say, well, we want her out. That wasn't gonna happen. But you knew somehow when we got the news that Sandy Brandello was not going to be renewed, nobody was shocked, and I think it was time for a change. And I think what we're seeing right now in the WNBA is that it seems like now they're keeping an eye on the NBA and try to take talents from the NBA to bring them to the W. We saw with the Phoenix Mercury bringing a coach from the NBA. We saw Becky Hammon with the Las Vegas Aces. It's a trend, and it's been a successful trend because they bring fresher ideas and more systems, more ways to adapt. So I think we knew that the New York Liberty were gonna maybe eye the NBA, and so they took their time with the search, and they ended up choosing Chris DeMarco. I mean, he's been there for 16 years, experiencing the whole dynasty of the Golden State Warriors. He started, I think, as a video assistant and just moved up the ladders to become one of the most important assistant coaches of Steve Kerr. So obviously, that's the best thing you can have on your resume. But we obviously want to see what's going to happen. And I think I was reassured by his press conference and some of the things that he shared, some of the ideas that he wanted to implement for this team. But between words and what's on the court, there's two different realities. But what we saw in the preseason and those two games of this 2026 season against Connecticut and the Washington Mystics, I think we could be very hopeful for this season and bring some change compared to the last two seasons. What are you making so far of Chris DeMarco and the system and how he's making the New York Liberty play this year?
I like the flow. I like what he's done so far. I think time will tell as the players get used to this new system and they get more comfortable with each other. And I think they'll get better. These first couple games, it reminded me of Golden State, of watching a Golden State game. There was constant movement.
Yeah.
Whereas last year, you would see a lot of just stagnant players. Like they would just kind of stay right on the outer area of the court, and you would just realize that what's the game plan here? Like, is it just Stewie? Is it just get the ball to Saab? Like what? And you could tell if it didn't go through Saab or Stewie or JJ, the other players really didn't get an opportunity that much. And here with Chris DeMarco's system, I feel like you see more screens are being set for everyone. They're set, even the guards are setting screens for the bigs. And so everyone's going to get an opportunity to get to the ball. Everyone's going to get an opportunity to shoot. Everyone's going to make that opportunity for each other so that you're not just relying on your big three. Again, Saab, Stewie, and JJ, yeah, they're going to get their shots up. They're going to get their points. But if they have an off night ever, or like right now, Sab is out. She's injured, unfortunately. But other people have to step up. And you see that now within this system that other people are stepping up and growing in confidence. And I do like what he's doing so far. We'll see as they face Connecticut, which, they're a young team. Even though they have BG, they're still a pretty young crowd. And we'll see where they are in terms of the standings, but I don't expect them to be that high. And so Washington can be pesky, though. I think you have to be careful of them. But at least in these first two games, or especially in the game against Washington, I would say you saw grit, you saw fight. Some things they got to work out, but it's the beginning of the season, so.
Yeah, I think, you couldn't have asked for a better schedule to start the season with Connecticut, Washington, two teams that are not, playing for the playoff. They're playing to develop their young core and get good draft pick for this season and next year. So you knew that, it was kind of like the best teams to face right away. And as you mentioned, once again, we seem to be flooded with injuries. And that actually gives me the opportunity to also look at the player acquisitions that we've had this year. So I think last year, even though we were very excited by Natasha Clouds and what she could bring to the team, not just to the team but to New York City in general, because we know how much she is involved with the community she's playing for. But I think deep down we knew that this combination of Sab and Natasha Cloud wasn't necessarily the best one, because Sab needs the ball on her hands quite a lot, and she doesn't necessarily want to have the same role with just the catch and shoot as the second guard. But then that also leaves Tash without the ball on her hand, and even though she has made tremendous improvement in terms of her outside shooting, she's less effective off the ball than having the ball on her hand. And so, therefore, you have two players that are excellent players, obviously, but are they really gelling together? And you cannot ask Tash to come from the bench. So, you knew that you had two great players, but don't necessarily gel as a sort of combo. And we had that same issue prior with Vandersloot and Sab, that are excellent offensive players, but defensively were sort of liabilities, and we remember how the Aces targeted them in the 2023 finals. So we were kind of worried for Tash. What is her role? Is she gonna stay? And with the new CBA, she was entitled to ask for more money, and so I was not surprised that the Liberty decided to not keep her, or at least try everything they could to keep her, looking for a different fit. And so if you look at some of the players they got Pauline Nastier, French player that was doing wonders in Europe and in the EuroLeague. She just finished a season with Prague. And she's not really, it's a bit like Phoebe. She's not really a rookie based on her past experience. She's been playing with the national team. She's an exceptional passer, quick on offense. And so I think she's going to do wonders as the backup point guard of Sab. And now we see with Sab out that, she took on the starting role, and she's doing just fine now. Having numbers, with a name put in the same position as Candace Parker or Caitlin Clark for greatest debut for a rookie. So she's showing, and the Liberty have shown before that they're great at scouting internationally. But I think the biggest acquisition of this offseason was definitely Satu Sabali. Satu replacing, sadly, her sister Nyara. We wanted to have both on the team, and I'm sure the New York Liberty tried really hard to get her last year. It didn't work out, but this year she chose us, and I think that's a game changer. Hoping, obviously, that she will be fully healthy. We know that she, in the past, has had a share of injuries, and right now she's out with a cyst. So we don't know what that means, how serious that is, depending on where the cyst is. But she's not there at the moment. But once she's back, hopefully soon, that's a game changer for the Liberty, because now you have a very tall team, a team that can shoot, that can attack the baskets, that offers more versatility and more connection. Sab and Satu play together in Oregon. Satu play with Stewie and with Fenerbahce, and they won the EuroLeague together. So I think it's a much more balanced team with Satu in the starting lineup. And we kind of brought back also the OGs, Anshu, that looked much more confident. She put on some muscles. Rebecca Allen, she should have never left. Hopefully, she could have a tremendous season with the Liberty. Marine is back, Marine Johannes, and she seems to already play with more confidence. We have Marine Fotux, another great French player. There's going to be a sort of developmental player. She's coming back from an injury, so there's no real pressure to play her right away. So I think overall, it's a much more balanced team, and I think that I think it would be a better season than last year.
I will say, just for the record, I still miss Tosh. I think
Of course.
I understand. I know it's a business. It's what it is, but yeah, everyone misses Tosh and wish she was here. But we know she's going to do big things in Chicago. I'm glad. I'm just number one glad that she got picked up by a team because she deserves it. She's a fantastic player. So I'm glad that she's out there. In regards to the Liberty and the acquisitions this year, yeah, Satu is huge for the team. I think, yeah, it would be a great fit. Yeah, starting out the year with injuries is no fun, but hopefully, as people ramp up and hopefully with Satu, yeah, well, hopefully she'll gets better really soon and can be on the court. But I think ultimately I'm glad to see people like Han Shu back. I'm glad to see Benijah
That's
back.
what I was gonna say. We forgot Benaja.
I'm glad to see Rebecca Allen as well. Yeah, I think, what we're seeing is just that confidence and it starts with the coaching too. Like putting everyone out there and knowing that the whole bench is going to get minutes right now. That growth, that builds for them. I always hated the fact that when Han Shu was with us, that she came in the last like minute of a
Yeah, and we
game.
mentioned it
Yeah, I
back in the
hated that.
days.
I know she thought that oh the fans wanted her, and the fans were chanting her name well before Sandy would put her in. But I just felt like, oh, she could do so much more. Like, don't just give her 90 seconds on the court. That's nothing. And she's been sitting there this whole time. So I'm just glad that she's in there and you could see how confident she is on the court. You could see just her moves and even all the other players that are coming back. Marine Johannes, like just seeing her on the court and these last two games, like she's been on a roll. And I think, yeah, once you unlock Marine, the sky's the limit, honestly. And I think he's just helping her see that, with the coaching, they just want her to shoot. Yeah, you want her to be Marine, but you're actually setting plays for her now. You're actually releasing her to do what she does best. And yeah, sometimes mistakes are going to happen. She's not going to get everything correct all the time. And that's okay. You can work that out right now. Then later in the season, trying to put her in more because of an injury or something else. Having her there right now is just huge for her. And I love just the fact I love Pauline Astier so far, what I've seen. She is a baller and yeah, she has that same drive.
And no fear, like she
No
just
fear.
like attacked the basket,
And
like.
and she should because I think that's the thing that, for the Liberty I found last year and previous years you would see everyone sort of focusing on Sab and Stewie and JJ. Well, if you make it easy on the defense if they know we just got to focus on these three because the other two aren't going to shoot or they may not shoot or we'll let them shoot and they're not great shooters, whatever the case might be. Everyone focused on those three. Now you have to focus on everyone on the court.
Yeah.
So, people knew like we'll let this person shoot because maybe they're not so great from three. As long as we stick to JJ and Sab, yeah, I think now you'll see the Liberty more open with their offense and now with this new coaching staff, I think they're going to unlock even more for them. And as they gel through this season, you never know. We might see some bigger and better things out of everyone on the court.
I mean, as great as players are, I think they need to know their role, right? It's like they need to know, what is their role on the court. And I think that, that was the limit of the system last year. This five all-out system that play a lot with intuitions and the movement in the perimeter and the connection between Sab and JJ. But I think that there were at times where they felt a little bit lost because once their system is starting, but teams are figuring out what they're gonna do, then they get stuck. Then the clock is running out, and they have to ask Sab or JJ or Stewie to create a miracle. And so yes, you had the talent to have everybody at the perimeter, everybody can shoot, everybody can move, but I felt like there are times it was very frustrating because it was very stagnant. Despite the fact that they were moving constantly, it was not producing anything really. And you saw in the playoff against Phoenix, like it was basically Stewie on one leg carrying the team. So this year, as you said, they move with attentions. Everybody's setting screens. The guards are even setting screens for the bigs. The handoff screens that leads to Stewie attacking the basket. I feel like Chris DeMarco really want to utilize everybody's strengths and create plays that will help them to be at their best. And I think that, when you look at Benijah Laney, I mean, we really miss Benijah, her presence, her defense, what she could bring on offense, because, she's a very strong guard, and it's not easy to defend on her. And welcome to the W moment for one of the former UCLA players.
That poor girl.
Yeah, that poor girl. I mean, I mean, in a way, it's probably best that it happened on the first game. Let us get out the way, and then we can move on from it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that crossover by Benaja, that pump fake in that corner, then she just dribble between her legs, and then broop, her defender just drop on the floor, and then
I think the best moment from that is watching Stewie and the rest of the bench. Stewie jumping up like a little kid at the playground, so excited to see her friend just get cross up her defender. It was just, that picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
So, she bring down offense, but then you look at the second game against the Mystics, and she didn't take a single shot of the game. She only had one free throw. She converted one free throw out of two, but she was plus 12 on the court. She had the biggest plus minus of the Liberty. So, her presence was definitely needed. But what I liked was what Chris DeMarco said at the end of the game, where he said, like, yeah, that's on me, and I got to find ways to get her more involved offensively and setting plays for her. I love what, when he said that, because that shows a coach that is owning, his mistakes, or, things that, he didn't think of, or he didn't put in the best positions, but he's going to think about it next game and making sure that with a talent like Benaja, not just defensively, but offensively, like, you need to utilize her more. And we saw that, the Mystics for the second game. First game was easy. We won by 31, 106-75. Usually Connecticut is a good victim for us. But, the Mystics, they were greedy. Like, they were like in our face,
really.
really.
Should watch out for the Mystics because they're such a gritty team. I don't see them being a bottom team. I think they'll be near, but I don't, with the talent they have, I think they have a shot to make playoffs. I really do.
Nah, come on,
Even if they're
nah.
the last one to
Come
make it
on.
in.
There's a lot of teams. They're not gonna
There's a
make the
lot of
playoffs.
teams, but
I think they have a promising team,
I think they
but they're
might
not gonna.
surprise you.
They're not gonna
I
make
think
the
they might
playoffs. Come
surprise
on.
you. I'm still watching Kiki and Sonia, and yeah, they got a bunch of rookies. I know that it's a lot, but I do think they're a feisty team.
They're a feisty team.
I do think that, some of the, we'll see how they do against teams like, obviously, they played us and it was gritty, but when they face teams like Vegas, Indiana, we'll see how it goes. But I don't know. I think there's some teams that will surprise you. I think that's one of them.
I think the problem for the Mystics is their lack of spacing, and I think that's the luck, in the sense that you face two teams that lack spacing, Connecticut and the Mystics, because there were players left wide open, like completely on their own. They knew that either they're not gonna take a shot, or it's very likely that they will miss a shot.
Yeah, but
So
don't they
it kind of
still got toe to? I mean,
because they
they
have
work the paint.
yeah, because they have athletic
They
players
may not. They
that
may
get a lot
not.
of boards
Yeah.
and make their life very difficult. Especially, we'll get back to that
They may not
with the
be.
officiating,
They
but
may not shoot a lot of threes because you probably mostly rely on like Sonia Citron to do that for you if she's open. But you got those bigs that can get in the paint and still make buckets. So even if it's not a three, you're still scoring in the paint, and that is gonna be Kiki, Shakira Austin, even Lauren Betts is gonna get a touch. When you have all of them on the court, they're gonna get buckets.
they're gonna get buckets.
Maybe
But we
not, and they're gonna stay in the game. They're gonna. I mean, they gave the Liberty a time
yeah, but
yesterday.
we're in the league where spacing and three pointers are just as important as in the NBA.
Yeah.
And so yes, you can compensate with great players in the paint, but at some point, if you're not able to convert threes, that's gonna be a problem. And so I think for the Liberty, we talked a lot about the offense, but definitely the question mark or waiting to be seen is the defensive identity of that team.
Yeah.
I think and also you have to put things in context. It's a very short training camp. It's not like the NBA where you have the whole month of September where players are probably back in August, playing together, and then you have like a whole months or 3 or 4 weeks of preseason. In the WNBA, you don't have that time. The college season ended like 2 weeks before the start of the season. Players coming from abroad. So you don't have a lot of time. So I felt like Chris DeMarco probably put a lot of emphasis on the offense because that was the big thing that needed to be changed. But I think the defense, they're going to have to figure out as they play. And we're still missing, Carrera. We forgot to mention a great player from Spain that was drafted many years ago. Another incredible draft that you bring a couple of years later that is going to have an immediate impact. You have Phoebish, obviously one of the best defenders on the team. Benaja is back. So you got key elements, but I think I'm still waiting to see what the identity is going to be, especially when they're going to face much tougher teams and teams that are much better on the perimeter. That would be like the thing that I'm really looking
I will
forward.
say the one weakness, I guess I would say for the Liberty right now is speed.
Oh, I was gonna say rebounds, but
Well, I think they'll get that. They'll notice that. I think they'll get better at that. But speed, I think that's where DC got to them at times. Even Connecticut just wasn't making their shots.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have a time with some of these younger teams that rely on their speed. They're gonna get left behind. They have the length. There is no question about that with all the players they have. They have the length on the court to defend, but when especially transition defense, which is the area for me that they always need to work on, I think that they could have a tough time with certain teams.
Yeah, I mean, like we'll see what happens. We definitely need to see the whole team healthy,
Yeah.
which we haven't had in a long time, and I really hope that we're not gonna go through the same nightmare as last year. But I think one thing that we did share a lot last year was that it shouldn't matter. I mean, yes, it matters when you have your star players out, but it shouldn't matter as much if you have a real identity. And we had talked about some of those teams that, regardless of who's on the court, like the Valkyries, for example,
Indiana.
or yeah, Indiana. I mean, Indiana had one of the best players, Caitlin Clark, out. Then you had a lot of other players out. Like, it didn't matter that they were out. They still had an identity and a way of playing. And so it was like, next player up. Whereas the Liberty is like, oh snap, like this player's out, this player's out. What do we do? Like it's almost like we had no plan. So I think that's one thing that we're gonna need a healthy team. But I feel more confident that regardless of who's going on the court, the game plan will allow you to be successful. So as we look at the upcoming schedule, we got 2 games on Tuesday and Thursday against one of the expansion teams, the Portland Fire. I think for me in my prediction and the prediction of a lot of people, that the Portland Fire will probably be the bottom team in the league, especially if you compare to Toronto, the Toronto Tempo, how aggressive they were in getting experienced players. I think you don't want to underestimate them, but I think it's going to be a tough season for Portland, and they after a good draft pick, so I think it's a good opportunity, despite the fact that we have a shorter roster to get the wins. And I think the matchup that would be interesting is on Thursday, May 21st, when we face the Golden State Valkyries. I think it will be the first real test for the Liberty. And then on the 24th, the Dallas Wings, they're gonna be a tough team. And you were talking about, the challenge for the Liberty to face teams that are athletic, that play fast. Dallas is a team that plays super duper fast,
Yeah. You're
and
gonna have to figure out a way to slow them down.
yeah, and so I think that those two matchup, and especially the Dallas one, will give us some sort of ideas of where the Liberty are. We don't know if Sab will be back by then, because she's out for at least 2 weeks. But definitely the matchup against Golden State and Dallas
I
will
like
be a
what they
matchup.
have right now as a team. I think if you need Sab to even be out a little bit longer, just safety, because you need her the whole season. I would not rush Sab back for any reason if they're winning games and Astier and others are doing really well. I think until she's like really fully healthy, I don't think there's a need to rush her back.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is that they're gonna have 1 week of rest once they finish their second game against Portland. They don't play for another 7 days, so that's gonna be great for them, because hopefully by then Carrera and Phoebe should be back. Hopefully Sab will feel better physically. Hopefully Satu as well, and they will have 1 week to just like practice and continue to grow as a team. So definitely that week off will come at a perfect time for them. So, with our new reality at home, as Felicia mentioned at the start of our podcast, the way we're gonna do things this year might be a little different. We might not be able to cover every single game. Sometimes I will do some solo podcasts. Also be on the lookout, because I will also be doing a French podcast, as the league is growing in France, is becoming more and more popular. Pretty much the whole French national team is now playing in the W, and we have 3 French players with the New York Liberty. So I felt like it was the right time to also do a French podcast. So for the French francophones that are listening, be on the lookout, because that will be an opportunity to also have a podcast about the New York Liberty in French. So, anything else, Felicia, that you want to add? Or
No, I mean, I think this season is going to be exciting.
mm-hmm.
I know the team will make it to the playoffs. I don't doubt that. Just where that's going to be it. But I do think that there's a new fire that is going to be lit under them with the new coach, new system, and once it all clicks, I think they have a really good shot at the title.
All right. Couldn't have said it better. So, thank you so much, guys, for listening to our podcast and for your patience after a long absence. But we're so glad to be back. And as we always say, Felicia, let's go Liberty!